they're the ones actually putting most of the money up. So if we kill the deal, well, if we kill the deal before that decision's made, we also have a responsibility to the people who elected us to keep ourselves in the game, so to speak, I believe.
I think our responsibility is to make sure that we are using taxpayer money appropriately, and that when given big projects like this, that have had a demonstrated will of the people to weigh in on them in the past, we have that responsibility first and foremost to our constituents.
And according to and even in the latest updates, they're trying to get the vote in January. I know the last meeting you said that this morning, the last meeting you proposed that they won't be voting on moving the team until June or July or sometime in the summer. But there is a movement underway with the NFL to hold Mr. Kroenke to task, and they are pushing for a vote to see to get this done, because apparently an NFL team will not be able to move if they don't vote by the end of January, because the team has to get their schedule set, where they're playing, all these things going on. A lot of logistics to this, which means that the Rams will be here next year if they don't vote by the end of January or beginning of February. If it's so, at that point, we have plenty of time to discuss this. But again, I feel it's to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as the alderman from the 3rd always says. In my mind, yes, while I believe in the will of the people to vote, what we have before us is a kind of a one-time offer. And that's just my opinion, but it's also the opinion of many people. I work in a business where my constituents see me on a daily basis. The package you brought last meeting with saying who voted against it, I've spoken to more than 1,000 people who are far, and they're city residents, and so I have to take that into account also. But I'm just stating that my main contention is that passing this out could scare the NFL away completely, and at that point, everything else is dead. There's no chance. I just want to make sure that people are aware that without the NFL putting $200 million, the NFL team, whoever it is, putting $250 million, the PSL selling anywhere between $170 and $200 million are the mainstay of the financing package. If we don't have that, then we're just urinating in the wind, as they say. So with that, no further questions, just wanted to make that statement. If you have anything else to do, if not, we'll entertain the public input. We do have time for it. It's up to you. If you
I'd love to have the public weigh in.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, we have a cross-examination. Alderwoman Davis has not spoke for the first time, so I'll allow her. She just mentioned something to me. Go ahead. Alderwoman Davis, proceed.
Thank you. Just a couple of things I wanted to get some clarity for myself on. The polling analysis that was sent to us, did I not receive part of it because I didn't see my ward wasn't here. I didn't see, I thought I saw the budget.
Can't hear you.
Have you actually had an opportunity to actually copy the page out of the budget, the line item page that actually shows where the funds come from, so that the public has the absolute information instead of us just talking? Did you have an opportunity to do that?
So, we're not here today to talk about the financing agreement.
Yes, we are, because you're talking about financing your bills.
Okay. What I will say is we've had a number of independent financial analysis that have been done on the bill that has been disseminated. We had a person come and talk in front of the Ways and Means Committee about what that actually looks like in terms of numbers. One of the biggest holes we have right now is we don't know what the maintenance and operations allocation will be, and we don't know, there are no cost overruns that are budgeted in. All it says is that the RSA is responsible, and so as the public, we don't know where the RSA is getting that money, since it's funded by city, county, and state, and we have the state over here saying we will have to make an appropriations bill through the General Assembly in order to provide anything for maintenance and operations or for cost overruns, and we're not willing to do that. So there's a lot of there is a lot of information that has not been given to us or has not been thought through. So what our financial analysis did is they looked at similar deals in other cities. They allocated 20% for cost overruns, which is about standard. And after talking with the city budget director and looking at the maintenance and operations of the dome and how we haven't met that allocation for a long time, they budgeted $8 million, which we believe is still very conservative, as annual maintenance and operations payments that would be split in our calculations between the city and the state, without the county participating in the new stadium.
Okay, I appreciate your very thorough and honest answer. No, you don't know where the money comes from. And no, you haven't seen it specifically. But yes, you are telling the public something that you don't absolutely know and or understand. And that's not fair. But anyway, my next question is, because some expert coming from somewhere, we all can grab one, just walk outside, and somebody claim to be an expert.
We've talked with 5 economists across the country about this.
Across the country is not the city of St. Louis and who we are. And that's why I've probably heard me say it 4 or 5 times. I'm talking to the comptroller. At the end of the day, I will understand my finances from the person who oversees my finances and who the people have elected a number of times to represent us and protect our
Right,
money.
and that manila envelope sitting right there is from the comptroller that has her financial analysis, and she is not in support of this current deal for the exact
But
same
don't
reasons.
confuse why she's not, don't confuse the public about what she is saying. That's another thing. We use what is opportunity for us to pass what we want to pass. I had a thorough discussion with the comptroller. Thorough discussion.
Yes, and she
I understand
supports our right
what
to
she
vote
is
on
talking
this.
about, but in the full scheme of things, it really has nothing to do with whether or not the citizens have a right to vote. It is the actual calculation of the deal. And at the end of this, she's gonna make the deal work for us, or there will be no deal, and it will not come out of Ways and Means. So don't confuse the public and use that as an opportunity. Don't confuse, because don't let me start reading this. Okay? Don't confuse the public. I don't like that. My next question here is, there's been some talk about we don't care about future jobs, but I care about current jobs. That's what I care about. I care about my senior citizens that are making a difference by working part-time in this stadium. I care about the people who have formulated the opportunity to have a career since they've been here and now have good living wages and are able to send their kids to college and able to do some of the things that the average Joe who only has a high school education wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. So I care about today. I look at now. And so I don't want to get into all that futuristic, whatever it is that you're talking about when you say you don't care about jobs. And that's as irresponsible as anybody can be when you say you don't care about whether or not another person survives with a quality of life.
I'm not sure where I've ever said that.
I'm not, no, I said we are saying, not you, we are saying and using that we don't care about jobs. I do. And that was a comment, not a question, because I don't want to, I'm not questioning you on that. But my last, I do want to ask you one more time. When those people who have come to you, and maybe, I don't know which came first, you had the initiative that it needed to be a bill, or some people came to you and said, let's get together and let's put this bill forward. Was there any opportunity for you to sit back and or talk to some other people that could give you a little bit of guidance on how this could have been done a little bit more so?
So we did, it's a 2.5-page bill. It's a 3-page bill. It's a pretty simple bill for coming out of the Board of Aldermen. I know that we often have things that are 80 pages or more.
Well, but what we went through to get here, and it's still, you're still talking, you still have all these other things that are convoluting in this, because all you want to ask for is a simple vote.
Correct, and that's what it it lays out, the bill says that when a financing agreement is passed, the Board of Aldermen has to give the ballot language to the Board of Elections. The comptroller provides a fiscal note. The board sends that fiscal note to be included with the ballot language to the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections schedules the election, has the election, and then after that, the mayor and the comptroller are authorized or not authorized to enter into a financial agreement. That's pretty simple.
And I also wanted to ask, what is your opinion from the public meetings and things that we've had? What is your opinion of the percentage of those who appear to support the initiative and also were not asking for a public vote?
I attended both hearings, and the majority of people who spoke in opposition to the stadium said one of the main reasons that they are opposed is that they want to vote on this.
But then what I'm saying is, not just the people who spoke, because everybody didn't speak, but there was some general understandings from the questions that were asked, the watching of the people and their applauding. I know when I went to the riverfront, it was probably somewhere, and I'm gonna give it a low number because it really probably was higher. I would say 75% of the people there were for it and they weren't asking for a city vote. And honestly, it's probably more like 90. And I counted at one point because I had to know, and I counted about 47 people out of all those people down there who were just honestly into it. And you could, I mean, every time there was something that they felt negative about, they let it be known.
And I think you and I have very different perceptions of that meeting. I also think a lot of those supporters are people from the county who we are not elected to represent.
Well, that's another thing.
About 95% will want a vote, and 80 to 90% will vote no. Okay, you don't even have to worry about it. So you did good not to waste your money. Okay, because I can tell you, I am in contact with my ward, and even when I wasn't down here, and we did things like when we did the thing to take over the police under local control and to reduce the Board of Aldermen, my ward voted no. Okay, so I do keep in contact and I know where they are. So if that's something somebody wants, we sure could have a meeting. In fact, I plan to, and I've talked to some other people who represent some other wards, and we're talking about having another North Side ward meeting because the meeting that they had over in Antonio's ward, this is the thing, it was so far north and it was on an evening, and a lot of people don't like to come out on the evenings. And so we have our meetings Saturday mornings, and we get, anybody who's ever been to my ward meetings know we get 200 to 400 people, okay? So we get a big group of people to come to our ward meetings, and they participate, and they can read. And they've already been on record, because what we're calling the first ward is really 75% of the old 20th ward, which I've represented for a long time. And I already know what their position has been all these years. I want to make a point about what we talked about earlier about who was going to pay for this stadium. Did you read in the newspaper that Steve Stenger said that they were not giving any money toward the stadium? Is that what you read? Because that's what I read.
That's what I read.
Okay. And it wasn't anything that says, I'll think about it or anything like that. It said, we're not participating. Is that correct?
Not without a vote.
Okay. Then, did you get a letter, which I did, from, I guess, 21 of the 34 state senators to the governor saying that we're not going to fund that stadium? Did you also get a copy of that letter?
Yes, not without going through the General Assembly or with a vote of the people.
And I think those were Republican state senators, and I've since talked to a couple of Democratic state senators. Surprise, surprise. They also added their names to it, saying that they were not going to do it. So I'm going to be interested in how the governor gets this money together when Democrats and Republicans are working together saying we're not going to do it. And I want to say the last time we funded the stadium, we did have money from the state, we had money from the county, and we had money from the city. So when I hear that 2 of the 3 entities that were going to that funded the last time is not going to fund, that makes me even more nervous about us spending our money. As to the way your board bill is worded, or even the way you did your polling, should city taxpayers' money be used? Let me say, I think that's very appropriate. Very, very appropriate, because that's what taxpayers care about. I can tell you right now, if Oprah comes down to tomorrow and says, guess what, St. Louis, I'm gonna give you some of my billions to help you build a stadium, I'll be in line to say I'll take it, okay? So I don't think that you need to ask them, do they care about it if it's not taxpayer dollars. I think that what the taxpayers care about is if it's their dollars. If we find a way that does not take money from them, especially general revenue, doesn't use taxpayers' money, I don't think a taxpayer would be against it. I think you could find something that would be unanimous in that, yes. If Stan Kroenke would say, I'm going in my pocket and pay for the whole thing, would not have a problem with that. So I think the way you worded it was exactly right, okay? That's what we're concerned about, taxpayer money, not Sharon's personal money. If we want to all give money, if everybody who's for this wants to go in their pocket and give money, not a taxpayer would be upset about that, okay? I understand how the polls was conducted. I agree with the alderman from the 24th Ward. I'm always surprised sometimes when people talk about polls and think that they do every one. I mean, on a presidential race, they don't do every one. On very important races, this is not how polls are conducted. They don't go into everyone. So I understood what you did. I want to commend you for doing polls. That was also very smart to kind of give an idea of what's going on. And so thank you again for that. I want to talk about this thing about jobs. And people don't care about jobs. People care about jobs, but people care about other things too. Jobs are just one part of this. It is not the whole end to all end for everybody. And some people get jobs and some won't get jobs. Most people need jobs. That's what I said before, and I'll say it again. But there's also the integrity of representing people what they want. Maybe the people don't think. And when I say the people as a whole, the citizens of St. Louis who would vote, maybe they will think jobs is the most important things, and maybe they will think other things. We're not saying what is most important. We're saying, do they have a right to have a say about this? And I think they do. The thing about the comptroller and what her position was, that really, I didn't understand that whole conversation, because the comptroller has said, and what I've heard her say, is that we can't afford the way it's set up. So maybe you can explain, if you've heard differently, that the way that they wanted to do it, we could not afford to do it, that it would put us in a bad position in the bonding, that our bonds have already been lowered, and some other things, and that is why she didn't say she was against the stadium. She said she was against the funding. Is that what you understood?
That is what I understood.
So, even though you don't know exactly what deal would come up at the point, and if we will make another deal, as I understand your point, you don't care if we make a deal that doesn't include public funding. You just don't want us to make a deal that includes public funding without input, I'm sorry, not you, but this board bill doesn't want us to make a deal that includes any kind of public funding without some input of the voters of the city of St. Louis. Is that correct? Taking the vote. Okay. And is that what I understood?
It's my understanding that what has been stated by the NFL is that with a clear path for these NFL to move forward, they will always consider us in this package of what they're doing with the Inglewood project, the Carson City project between San Diego, Oakland, and the Rams, and that any inclination or thing that could delay it would just kill the deal. In other words, putting this to a vote has a good chance of making the NFL just completely walk away from the deal up front. At this moment, Kroenke's negotiating to move the San Diego team as his partner in Inglewood. All of a sudden, he's a nice guy because the NFL's beating him up a little. So this could all be moot at this point, because I'm sure that if they take San Diego as a partner, that the NFL owners would then have enough reason to find fault with all our package and be happy and just leave St. Louis out in the lurch. So it has been what's been presented to me, talking to Mr. Peacock, talking to people, that any impediment will just kill the deal right off the bat, and you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot when you should be jumping over hurdles sometimes.
So is it your understanding that when, before the Judge Frawley took it upon his lone self to declare our vote illegal, or that they were not dealing with St. Louis at all? Is that your
Well,
understanding?
it's my understanding that if it was required to go to a vote, that we wouldn't be here right now.
That's what they told you?
No, that's not what I was told. It was my
Okay,
understanding.
so,
No one don't put words in my mouth.
no, I just asked you. I didn't put word in your mouth. I asked
No
you
one
that.
told, I was, what, in my understanding of the conversation that I've had is that, and what NFL owners are saying, and when you talk to people, that with a clear path, St. Louis is in the running.
But my question to you was, since before Judge Frawley took it upon himself to declare a vote that the people had, we had an ordinance that says you have to take a vote. So was it your understanding that at that point they were not dealing with St. Louis? They had taken us off and said, well, we're not even going to deal with St. Louis because that ordinance is in place.
My understanding was it was considered a roadblock, yes.
But it did not impede them entirely from considering us.
No, at that point, it had not. I believe that the fact that the judge had the ruling made them wait.
Yeah, I'm sure the fact that the judge had the ruling, I think that had everything to do with it. And I want to say, being down here, I have never, ever had anything come before us that big people didn't want, that there was not the threat of, you're going to lose this, you're not going to have this. We got to pass the hotel deal that went bankrupt, because we got to have this. There's not one thing ever that they didn't threaten. You're not going to have jobs. You're going to lose jobs. We got to have this. If you don't do it, it won't have it. That's just what they use.
And that's the tactic that the NFL uses for every deal in every city, is false sense of urgency, false deadlines, in order to get cities to basically pony up more money and compete against each other. There's a lot of research out there on this is their business model. And so basically we have a decision to make as to whether we are operating in business as a city government for taxpayers in the city of St. Louis, or we are acting in business for a billionaire company, and they're billionaire owners. And I don't know about you all, but my constituents elected me to represent them as taxpayers.
Okay, and it was another statement. Well, first I'll ask you. And I've read over the years, because I was involved with the first one. When I first came down here, I was very new to this, and so I tore the original stadium deal apart and went through it and tagged it, and I'm looking for it now because I still have my original tagged and questions and things. But over the years, I've read all these surveys about what happens with these stadiums, and what I found, and if you read it, is that oftentimes the cities do not make money off of these deals. Has that been your finding?
Yes.
Okay.
Over 90% of the time, there's one case of a
Just
city.
took the wrong chance. Thank you. Please state your name to the microphone and speak.
Chris Stewart, I lived in St. Louis for 40 years, lived in the 28th Ward. This is the third meeting that I've attended. I think it shows a failure of the city government that we're even here. I've done some research. The ordinance was very clear. It passed in 2002. Clearly, people of the city wanted to vote whether or not there would be any further funding of public sports stadiums. I mean, it was clear. I've looked through other articles. Public officials will state, well, we can't change the Jones Dome unless we get, I've heard Francis Lake say this, unless we get a vote of the people, there won't be any money going to any sports stadium funding. So when they entered into starting to negotiate again, who knows how long this has been in the process, probably a long time behind closed doors. They really didn't have the ability legally or ethically to do that on the part of the taxpayers until there was a vote. So the only time that it became clear that there wasn't going to be a vote was when this one single judge somehow miraculously decided it wasn't clear. And I mean, it was clear. The people that put the referendum together, who got the ordinance, the name of that group was Coalition Against Public Funding for Sports Stadiums. The ordinance was just about as clear. So all of you knew that getting money for a new sports arena was going to require a public vote. Through some, as I say, miracle of the courts at the moment, which it is certainly under appeal and is not over by any means, you were able to set that ordinance aside. But as representatives of the taxpayers with any kind of conscience or concern about the future for St. Louis and for the voters and the people that will end up paying for that, now, thank goodness, because of Alderwoman Green, her courage, and the people that are co-sponsoring this bill, you can redeem yourselves and show that you do care about the taxpayers, recognize that what you believed for years was the ordinance they put forth with intention. It took a lot of effort to get that onto a ballot, 10,000 signatures. The county at that point, the same group put forth a charter amendment to the county. Steve Stenger knew that meant something. He knew that he couldn't simply fund this and ignore the vote of the public, that he would have to take it to the public. So the county's not participating in this. I think for the legitimacy of St. Louis City government, you need to pass this ordinance and get a vote of the people.
My name is Tim Krupinski. I'm Vice President of the 15th Ward Democrats. And honestly, I want to echo some of the sentiment from the previous speaker. I think we're here because of failure of leadership on the guys that are sitting in front of me right here. It's pretty simple, really. We were kind of criticizing some of the conversations of being, really convoluted and messy and hairy. It's simple, guys. We had a right to vote, and one guy, a judge, said, no, I don't think that's right. And without scrutiny, without appeal, we're all going to sit back and say, okay, NFL, come on in, do your thing. The objections I've heard to this bill moving forward have been, we're afraid of how this positions us against the NFL. We're afraid of what the NFL might do. The people making those arguments not once said, I'm looking at this as how this is going to reflect on me, on what the voters elected me here to do. I'm hearing a lot of concern about what the NFL is going to think and not a lot of concern about what we're going to think. And frankly, I think that's shameful. I really do. It's shameful that we have to pull our own money together to do a poll because these corporate interests don't seem willing or able to do one themselves and be transparent with the people. It seems shameful that we're being asked to go above and beyond. We have day jobs, we have 9 to 5s, we have families, we have kids to do the work that should be done by our Board of Aldermen, I think, and providing that information to the people in a clear and concise way. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for taking the time.
Hello, my name is Michael Berg. I live in the 24th Ward. I signed up as pro because I support the
Bill, yes, I'm sorry.
I very much appreciate Alderwoman Green for putting this together, and I appreciate the statements of Alderwoman Tyus and my Alderman Ogilvie. I testified to Ways and Means about this. If there is no vote, it shows contempt for the concept of democracy and the people of St. Louis saying, well, we know better than you do about where we should spend your money. And as Alderman Ogilvie pointed out, we take a lot of votes on a lot of things. And it's possible that the last vote on the bond issue, it might have not gone through because people were so upset about the court ruling, saying, well, you don't have the chance. So whether people get to vote on this or not, people are going to get to vote. And if you show the people of St. Louis that you don't trust them with the ability to make decisions about their money, they're going to take it out on other votes, perhaps the earnings tax or other bond bills. This is very dangerous to push this through without a vote and undermine the trust of the people of St. Louis in this body and the entire government of St. Louis. So strongly urge you to pass this out of committee and pass this bill as quickly as possible.
Thank you.